Control is an interesting thing. We tend to control when we feel unsafe, when we feel not heard, not seen, when we're trying to protect ourselves, when we're attempting to create certainty in our environment, we control. Now, why do we control? We control because we have gripping unconscious fears, unresolved wounding that is informing us if we don't do as much as we can to control our environment, to control the relationships, to control what's happening in our world, we're going to move into a tailspin of fear, maybe pain, and potentially even death. This is how the mind-body works. When we're hyper scared or hypersensitive, we tend to want to control. Now, in a very simplistic way, there's a couple of ways that we control. And we can look at masculine control and we can look at feminine control. Whenever we are attempting to be in control, rapid, excessive, persistent control generally means we're in an unhealthy state. We're coming from a wounded place. When the wounded masculine is attempting to control, the wounded masculine is autocratic, oppressive, loud, judgmental, subjugating, not healthy, right? Really oppressive in action, really even violent or abusive in action and thought and expression. The feminine, when in control, the hyper feminine, the shadow feminine, the wounded feminine in control, is more manipulative, is more in the shadows, is less overt, more internal, yet manipulates the situation, lies, doesn't tell the truth, wears mask upon mask upon mask. Yes, the masculine wears the mask and hides the fear with anger. The feminine will wear the mask, pretend everything is okay when it's not, when there's this shuddering and shaking inside. Now, remember, the masculine and feminine energetic resides within every single one of us. Our disposition to choose we all want to control. When we are in fear, we want to control. We want to have as much control and autonomy and access to our environment as possible. We feel safer. It's a basic human function to want to be in control when we feel very unsafe. How we do that, the disposition towards, is it more of a masculine energetic or a feminine energetic? Depends on our core energetic, number one. It also depends on so many other things, our family values, our cultural values, how we've been brought up, how we've seen the world, what the world is telling us and informing us about our own gender, what the world is telling us about our own self-worth, how we feel about ourselves, how we've gained control in the past, what our conditioning is, what we've been exposed to. The fears, the specific fears that we hold within us. Are we an extrovert? Are we an introvert? There's so many factors that lend themselves to that. But understanding that when you're in this excessive hyper control, it's because you're hurting inside. It's because you're feeling pain. It's because you are in fear and you're hurting. And if you don't address the core wounds, particularly the infliction of the original wounds associated with what's informing you in the present, to keep you safe, the hyper alertness that you have, that's probably coming from the amygdala, particularly if you're experiencing physiological characteristics, sweaty palms, racing heart rate, like you're constantly in this agitated, very erratic place. We have to deal with the core wounds that inflicted this, I don't feel safe in the world and I have to be in control, and this is the method I'm going to use. This is the coping strategy I'm going to use. And it helps to identify, because then you can begin to chip away with help and support and awareness. You can begin to chip away at this core wounding that continues to impact your nervous system in the present moment. And then we can talk about inner child stuff as well. That's another conversation, but it's one that's integrated into this place. The inner child plays a big role in how we see the world today, the unmet parts of our psyche, the parts of us that weren't seen, that weren't heard, that weren't given the attention to, that weren't helped when they were in distress. They play out in who we are today. Check out my inner child workshop, christinehassler.com/innerchild. My beloved and I are running a workshop. Starts in about 2 or 3 weeks. We are very excited. It's a virtual workshop and it will help really shift these fears and this need to control everything in your life. Power and blessings. I'll see you soon.